Today, we're going to talk about Havasupai. Now, if you don't know what Havasupai is, it's a little strange you clicked on this video. It is a beautiful oasis, destination hike in Arizona. It goes down into the Grand Canyon. It has this amazing blue-gray water and 5 separate waterfalls. Lots of people see pictures of these waterfalls and they instantly say, I want to go there, because of course you do if you love the outdoors especially. I've been down there several times and decided to put this video together to give you as much information as I can, from getting the permits, where to stay, the drive-in, the parking lot, the hike, all the waterfalls, what to pack, everything I could think of to make your visit to this amazing place easier. So that being said, they're always changing things. Before I sat down to record this video, I got an email from the tribe saying that they were introducing a new lottery system. I'll put a link to the tribe website in the description of the video. Make sure you go check that out. There are also a bunch of Havasupai related Facebook groups. They are good resources for latest conditions and any changes that might occur. So that being said, let's get into it. Most difficult part about Havasupai is getting permits. Their permit system, they go up on February 1st at 8 a.m. Arizona time. By the way, Arizona does not practice daylight savings. Make sure you know what time 8 a.m. Arizona time is before you go in there. Similarly, you want to go into the website before February 1st, set up your account, get your password, familiarize yourself with the website so that you know what you're looking at. You do not want to go in there at 7:59 and start trying to set things up, because there's no way you're going to get it set up and figure out where to go to get permits in time before they're all sold out. The hiking season is 2/1 through the end of November. They're closed December 1st to the end of January. And when those permits go up, I've seen them sell out in like 30 or 45 minutes for the whole year. So you're going to have to be really fast. You're going to have to be extremely flexible on your dates, and you're going to have a little bit of luck to get them on February 1st when they go up. Other helpful things to have your credit card ready, have your driver's license ready, have your car, make, model, license plate, have all that information there and ready, because you can actually get the permits in the cart, go to start filling stuff out, and then realize, oh, I got to run out to the garage and get my license plate. And then you come back in and somebody else has already got your spot. Be prepared. Back when I first got permits, you had to call up. It would just ring and ring and ring. And I don't need to get into that whole frustration, because you don't have to deal with that now. But I did try 1 year on the online, and the website constantly crashed. When I'd finally get through and find permits, by the time I got entered, it would either crash again or somebody would have them purchased. So I've not been successful getting permits on the opening sale date for the full year, which leads me to one of my first tips, which is check the page for cancellations. Obviously go in on the launch, try and get the permits, but if you don't win them then, you can go in 8 a.m. every single day and they will put cancellations on there and you can grab them there. I was actually able to get 3 separate permits for 2023 by using the cancellation process. It would take me several days, and when I was going for a specific time period, a few weeks, but I was able to get what I wanted 3 times for the year. That's probably going to be your best bet. I mean, people are catching on to it. Some idiot's making a video about it and posting it on YouTube. So the word's going to get out, but cancellations are your friend. If you don't get it on February 1st, don't give up hope. Just keep trying. One of the things that I see online all the time, it's kind of amusing, is people are like, hey, I'm going to be in Arizona in a week and I want to go down to Havasupai on Friday. That's not going to happen. You need to plan this well in advance and be very flexible on your dates. You have your target dates that you want, but ultimately you get the permits that you're able to get, and then you just have to kind of roll with it. They used to let you go for up to 1 night, all the way up to, I think, 5. Now it is 4 days, 3 nights. That's it. No more, no less. That's all you can get. You can leave early, but you're going to pay for the full time. When I went 2023, the cost was $355 a person for those 4 days. In 2024, it is now already, they've announced it's going up to $455. I know that's a lot of money, but it is absolutely the definition of a bucket list location. And I am just happy they're gracious enough to allow us to go visit. What else about permits? The limit is 12. And as far as cancellations, I made the mistake of buying permits that I couldn't use. They fully refunded my money. I forget how long it took, but it didn't take very long. Pretty easy process. That's how the permits get back on the cancellation. I've seen some people say that they were able to transfer, but formally on the website it says you cannot. I've never had to myself, so I wouldn't count on that. They do allow you, when you go in and set up your account, to put an alternate party leader. Definitely recommend you do this and put some thought into who that person is going to be, because they say that you have to have the party leader there to pick up the permits. Say you get sick, say you have something happen in your life that you can't go, and you have 10 of your friends that are going to go down there. If you don't have somebody listed as the alternate party leader, according to their website, you can't get your permits. They list a phone number you can look up online. I don't recommend you rely on that. I think you would be lucky if you could get somebody on the phone. They do give a help email that's listed on the website. You can try that. I haven't had to, so I don't know how helpful or how responsive they are, but you can do that if you have issues. This is not like the Hilton where you get to leave a bad review on Yelp. This is a village halfway down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. It does ask for the make and model of your car, like I said, and license plate number. I don't know how many vehicles are allowed to park in the parking lot. If you get 12 permits under one person, you're probably not all driving together, so they probably let more than one go. Try and carpool as much as possible so you limit the amount that you need there, and then ask when you pick up your permits what you do about the other cars and how you can park. So ultimately you get your permit. They will send an email with a bunch of instructions. There's a lot of information they give you there, and it's going to be really helpful. Make sure you read everything they send you. Permits that I just covered, that is for the campsite. That's when you bring in your tent, you're backpacking it. But when you go down, you pass through the village, and there's a lodge there that you can stay at as well. The permits go up on February 1st, just like the camping permits on the website. It's another 4-day, 3-night stay, and the cost is $2,277 per room. Sleeps 4 people, so $500-ish a piece. If you're gonna go solo, I would not recommend the room. That's gonna be an expensive stay, but the lodge is an option. You want to check again with everything else here. The rules can change. Currently, it's a 2 to 5 p.m. check-in and an 11 a.m. check-out. Another thing that I've always wondered about with the hotel is it is 2 miles from the village to the campsite. The beginning of the campsite is where the first major waterfall, Havasu Falls, is.
Wow.
So every day that you want to go down and check out the waterfalls and the creek, you're going to probably walk about 2 miles at least to get to them, and then 2 miles back, which also has, I want to say, 600 to 800 feet of elevation gain. So it's all uphill from the campgrounds to the lodge in the village. So keep that in mind if you're going down there. All right, and the last second edition that I just received the notification from the tribe in an email. They now are implementing a lottery system. Now, obviously, I haven't done this yet because it doesn't even start for a couple more days. But what they say on the email is January 5th to January 18th, you can enter this lottery for $15. You pick some dates that you want. You pick a month that you want to go down there and get permits, and you may or may not win the permits you want. You still have to pay the full price once you get selected, but it lets you avoid that February 1st crowd. If I was going to plan, I would absolutely go in, spend my $15, and see if you get lucky. They don't give that $15 back if you don't. They don't say how many pre-register lottery applications they're taking. On January 26th, they say they will select the lucky people. They don't say how many people are going to get lucky, but they will select some people. You won the lottery. Here's your dates. Here's how much you owe us. And then you don't have to worry about February 1st. Don't know how that's going to go, but it's interesting. Okay, so this is obviously a developing situation as I make the video. They haven't done the pre-sale drawing yet,
But I've seen people online that are upset because they put down a month that they could go, and they're concerned, what if I win these dates that I didn't pick of the 3 primary choices, I just get a random date in the middle of the month, I can't go. So I don't know. Apparently they're going to charge your card if you win the full amount of the permits. I don't know how it's going to happen. I would think you could just go through the normal cancellation process, use your alternate party leader, maybe pick somebody that's more flexible. You could transfer it over to them. Not sure. I wish I could tell you, but like I said, they haven't done it yet. Take that into account if you're going to try the pre-sale. All right, back to the video.
So once you've lucked out, you've got your permits, it's coming up to the big day of the hike. You have to go pick up the permits at the Grand Canyon Cavern Inn. Now that is a hotel that is run by the tribe that is just outside of Seligman, Arizona, which is the closest town to the Trailhead. It's older, but it's nice enough. We got a room there when we went the last time. Did the trick, and it got you as close as you could be to the Trailhead. You used to be able to sleep in the parking lot. They don't allow that anymore. What we did, and what I highly recommend you do, is go in and pick up your permits the day before you're supposed to hike in. They're open 6 a.m. until 7 p.m. We did get there at like 6:30. They were still open. You do not need all your party members there, but you need your party leader or your alternate party leader to pick up the permits. You get wristbands, you get a printout of the paperwork, you get tags to put on your tent if you're camping. If you have questions, you could ask them. We just went straight from picking up the permits, driving up there after work, getting the permits, and then going to our hotel room. Woke up early the next day, drove to the Trailhead. When we were there, it was later. We saw what looked like a gas station, but it wasn't open when we were there, and I don't even know if it is still operational. Seligman is the next closest place. When you leave there, make sure that you fill up your tank with gas, because there is nothing from Seligman and the Grand Canyon Caverns Inn all the way to the Trailhead. If you run out of gas, you're out of luck. Any supplies, those are your chances to grab them. The inn did have a small gift shop that had very basic camping supplies. I think I saw some propane, maybe a cup of noodles, that sort of thing. If you don't want to stay at the Grand Canyon Caverns Inn, I think it's about 20 to 30 miles to Seligman, so it's going to add a little bit of time on your drive. So the day of the hike, you have a 65-mile drive. Any car can make this drive. It is paved all the way, including the Trailhead parking lot. No signal from Grand Canyon Caverns Inn all the way to the Trailhead. Now, on your way there is now, as of 2023, a checkpoint where they check your wristbands, they check your permits. I think they would have the right to search through all of your stuff if they wanted. Remember, this is the reservation. They have their own rules and regulations and police force. So read up, because there are a lot of things that you're not allowed to have. Guns, alcohol, drugs, drones. When we went, they didn't go through all of our stuff. They just checked for our paperwork and let us go. I did not see anywhere where they list the hours for the checkpoint. And I actually went once last year when it was kind of late at night and they have a trailer there. They just put a cone in the middle of the road and nobody came out of the trailer, and you're just kind of out of luck. You got to turn around and go back the other way and come back at a different time. So when you pick up your permit, I would ask when they have the checkpoint open so you can continue through to the Trailhead. Another thing worth noting is if you are going with a larger group, you're going to have to make plans to meet ahead and get all the paperwork to anyone else who's driving up in a separate vehicle, or they're not going to let you through. Well, they'll let the people with the permits, but they won't let the other people in your party through. I did see specifically that they said do not wait at the checkpoint for other people. So I would recommend that you meet at the inn. That's the closest place that has a large parking lot and is a good landmark that you can meet. You could drive all the way to the Trailhead, park in the parking lot, no problems. And that's back to me saying you should read everything they give you. They tell you all that information. I had it all. I didn't read it. I got there and I was out of luck. I had to turn around and go back and wait until I was supposed to go through. But you're watching this video, so you won't have that problem. All right, so you get through the checkpoint, a little bit further down the road, and you are at the parking lot. Fairly straightforward where you're supposed to park. They do have parking for the locals only, tribal members, and then they have the helipad, but it's pretty clear you're not supposed to go over there. There is a regular parking lot up right at the trailhead, and that is always full and overflows to where you park alongside the road further and further away from the trailhead. I recommend, if you're able to, don't park next to the cliff. If you park against the cliff, you do run the risk of rocks falling off the cliff. I've seen pictures of people that had a big boulder that came down through their windshield while they were down camping. I've seen plenty of evidence of rock fall off of that cliff. That's what insurance is for. Hopefully you can get a spot that's not right up against it. The other thing I've seen is a lot of people that are concerned about break-ins. I have never had any issues with break-ins. I've never seen any broken side windows or evidence of break-ins. I've heard a few stories, but not that many. That's just part of leaving a vehicle, is it can be damaged, it can be broken into. Can't worry about everything all the time. But as far as safe, it is as safe as any other parking lot. I've left my vehicle there several times for many days and never had a problem. I do recommend that you have all the supplies to change a flat tire and to jump a dead battery, and maybe some tools for some basic repairs in case something like that happens. I would hate to go down there and then climb all the way out, get back to my car, be ready to go home, and find out my battery was dead or my tire was flat. So, just something to think about now that I've told you not to worry. So as far as the hike in, it's about 10 miles from the parking lot to the campsite. The village is about 2 miles less, so about 8 miles to the village, 10 miles to the campsite, around 2,400 feet of elevation loss from the trailhead to the campsite. First thing you see is a bunch of switchbacks. I think it drops at least 1,000 feet in the first half mile going in. Keep that in mind, because when you're coming out, that's what you got to do right at the end, is those switchbacks that are brutal. And a lot of people underestimate that. You've spent the whole 4 days down there hanging out, you're tired, you're coming out, you get to the very end, you got to climb that hill. It's a decent hike. And I know way too many people that have never backpacked before. They see pictures of waterfalls, they think it looks beautiful, because it does. They slap together some backpacking gear and they go. Don't do that. Get your gear ahead of time. Go out, find something that you can hike, do some overnight camping trips, test your gear out. If you're brand new to backpacking, this is not the place to learn. It has helicopters and mules and cafes and stuff that normal backpacking trips don't have. But as you'll find out later in the video, you can't count on all that stuff. You should be able to get yourself in and get yourself out with all of your gear that you need for a 4-day trip. Go out and practice. Don't underestimate it. Way too many people do. Now, along the trail, there is not a lot of shade. I mean, it is in a valley, so if you hit it super early in the morning, later in the afternoon, you can get some shadows and get some shade. There's no reliable water source. I've seen some puddles down there sometimes, and I'll cover this in the weather, but Arizona, it gets brutally hot out here in the summer. One of the biggest risks down there, and I think the most trouble that people get in, is they don't bring enough water and they underestimate how hot it is. Practice, train, take it seriously, and be very aware of the weather, especially in the heat of the summer, and bring water. So no pets are allowed on the trail. There's good reason for that. They have pack mules that run in and out on that trail for the better part of the day. Along with that, they have dogs that run with the horses and mules. They can't have these dogs that are off leash dealing with other dogs. They don't want you spooking the animals, so no pets allowed. And be wary of mules, because you need to step aside. They don't wait. They go down there. They're not all tied together in a chain like if you're at the Grand Canyon. They are loose. They know the route. They do it every day. There will be one tribe member that is guiding 4, 5, 6 of these mules and horses, and they're just running along, doing their trail. They know what they're doing, but it's your job to stay out of their way. So you see them coming, step off to the side. Now, I had a little bit of conflicting information on the website. I saw where it said the trail was open 24 hours a day, and then I also said where it said to not hike at night. My recommendation is, when you pick up your permits, find out the earliest you can get through the checkpoint, go there then, start your hike. When you're hiking out, Take into account if you're in the hotter months. I left in the dark and have hiked out because you get to those switchbacks. You've hiked for 10 miles, sun starts coming up, it gets really hot. And the cooler months, I have been able to go in and actually hike it during the day, which was great because it's a beautiful trail. It all kind of depends when you go, what works best for your trip, your travel plans, if you're out of state or something like that. I would just plan on going in early. You get more time to spend down there on your first day and then hike out when it works out for you. So after about 8 miles and around 2,000 feet of elevation loss, you come to Supai Village. They don't allow any photography or videography in the village, so I don't have any footage to show you here. This is where these people live. Imagine if you had 400 or so tourists come through your home every single day. Give them their privacy, obey their rules, stay on the path going through the village. It's clearly marked which way you're supposed to go. They do have a cafe there. They have a general store that you're more than welcome to use. The store itself, it's got some basic supplies. It doesn't have a lot of camping gear or food. I did pack a lot lighter on the food when I went down there the last couple of times because I knew that in a pinch I could go to the store, I could go to the cafe, and I always overpack food. If you are at the campgrounds, remember again, that's 2 miles that you've got to walk each way just to get there. So you're going to want to stock up and not make a ton of visits up there. It is nice. There's not many places that I backpack that you can stop by and get a nice, hot, fresh cup of coffee while you're hiking into camp. Now you can check online for the hours for the cafe and the store. Right now it says cafe is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and the store is 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. I wouldn't cut anything close when it comes to office hours down there. They even have it on their Navajo taco stand that they make fun of. You know, we're open at 9 unless we're there at 10. They're on their own hours. They have a helipad that I'll come back to later, and there's a welcome center. The only other thing I can think of at the village is I've had people say, you know, is it safe? It's like any other place that you're not used to. It would probably be better if you are with other people, if it's after dark. I've gone through there a couple of times by myself at night and no issues. I don't know that I'd recommend that. It's people, so be smart about it. So after you get through the village, you have another 2 miles to get to the campgrounds, 400 or 500 feet of elevation loss. Along the way, you will pass 50-foot falls, which you can't see from the trail, Little Navajo Fall, which you can see from the trail, and then right before the campground, you come up to Havasu Falls, which is, I think, about a 150-foot waterfall. Amazing. It just kind of sets that stage for getting excited, getting psyched that, hey, we're down here. This is where we're going to be hanging out. Trail drops down to 150 feet to the base of Havasu Falls, and then you're pretty much at the campsite. The campsite itself is about a mile long, and it starts right around Havasu Falls, and it ends right at the top of Mooney Falls. There are campsites. They're not designated. They're just kind of apparent. There's clear areas where you can see somebody's camped. It's first come, first serve. There used to be, and there sometimes are, bridges that cross the creek. So when you're coming in, you've got the creek to your right looking down canyon. Most of the campsites at the beginning are on that side of the creek. You get further down, if you keep an eye open, and there'll be campsites on the other side. I've camped on the other side of the creek before, but it kind of occurred to me after that it flash floods down there sometimes. I don't know what you do if you're on the other side of the creek and it flashes. I don't even know if that whole area gets underwater. So if you're worried about flash floods and stuff, you might want to stay on the other side of the creek. So when you first get to the campsite, maybe 100-200 yards in, if you're looking down canyon, there will be a spring on your left. There's signage pointing out where it is. That is the only source of water in the entire hike, reliable water. You don't want to drink out of the creek. There's a ton of minerals that makes it that bluish green color, so you want to drink from the spring. It's coming right out of the rock. It's probably all filtered. Personally, I would recommend that you bring some type of filtration system. It's just better to be safe than sorry. You don't want to get sick while you're down there at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. There are composting toilets down there that you can use. I know that there's some at the beginning of the campground and there's some towards the end. I can't remember if there's some in the middle. The main thing to know about the toilets is they're there, they're gross, and bring your own toilet paper. You're lucky you have toilets down there. Most of the time when you backpack, you gotta dig a hole. And don't camp too close to them either because they smell. I've seen a lot of comments and questions asking if there are trees that you can hammock camp. There absolutely are. See plenty of people camping in hammocks. I've brought some just to hang out in the day. It's great, so hammock camping is no problem. They have picnic tables and they have buckets with lids on them that you could store food in. It flash floods, so those picnic tables get washed away. All the buckets that I'd seen before, the last time I was down there, they were all gone. They all got washed away. And the time before when I was there, people just filled them up with trash. I think the intention of the tribe was, hey, you can store your food in here, but then people abused that. They probably just washed away, and the tribe was like, I'm not gonna put them back because I'm not the garbage man down here. They also have bridges that go across the creek. One time I was down there, they were all intact, and the next time they were all gone. It changes all the time. All it takes is one flash flood, and it's all downstream, down at the bottom of the Colorado. I've always brought camping chairs and hammock and just kind of plan to not have anything, no amenities, tables, that sort of thing. Maybe you'll luck out most of the time I have, but don't count on it. Going back to the buckets, when I went there back in like 2017, the squirrels were, man, they were like on steroids. Like those things were getting into everything. People were hanging their packs, not hanging them high enough. The squirrels were jumping from hammocks and trees onto the packs, and the packs are swinging as the squirrels getting into them, getting them food. I didn't see any really. I think I saw one the last 2 times I went. There are critters down there. It is camping. I would recommend at the very least bring a good bit of rope or twine, or what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just gonna stick with rope because that's what I can think of. And hang your bag with your food. I wouldn't put it in the tent. I wouldn't put it in my backpack because you run the risk of a critter chewing through your expensive backpack or your tent and getting to it. Obviously a bear canister is gonna work. Bear bag would probably work very well, but those things are heavy and bulky. I just took a trash bag, tied a rope around it, threw a rock over a tree branch, pulled it up real high, got it out of the way, and didn't have any problems. At night, they have quiet hours. You want to be respectful of your neighbors. They're trying to enjoy it. Everybody does seem to turn in early. There's no Wi-Fi down there, no signal. Although I did notice up at the top of Havasu Falls, which is not that far away from the campground, I could get some limited signal and I could send some texts out. So you can pretty much count on it in the village. You may get lucky in some spots between the village and the campground to get signal, but none whatsoever in the campgrounds or downstream from it. So there's no campfires allowed in the campground. I have seen people bring these portable campfires, Radiate portable campfire. Other than that, it says check-in at the campground is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Every time I've gone down there, nobody checks you in. You don't have to check in with anybody. You've already got your permit. You already got your tag for your tent. Go in, find a spot, set up camp, you're good to go. They will come around and check on your campsite sometimes to make sure you got that tag on your tent. So make sure you do that. Can't think of much else about the campgrounds. One good tip though is if you go down there and you get a spot and you don't love it, people are always leaving and coming in. So you can keep an eye open and a better site may open up while you're down there. So you spend the first night in one spot you don't like, you see a spot that's great that just opened up, move your site, get a better place. Okay, so we can finally talk some waterfalls now. There are 5 main waterfalls down in Havasupai. I'm gonna go from upstream to downstream. So the first waterfall is 50-foot falls, and it is 50 foot tall. Now 50 foot, as I said earlier, is the first one closest to the village, and you can't see it from the trail. It's a little bit difficult to find. I'll put coordinates to it in the description. There's a trail that comes out off of the trail that goes from the village to the campgrounds, and if you go down that and you kind of look to your right downstream, that will get you towards Little Navajo Falls. If you look upstream and go left, that will take you up to 50-foot falls. Both of those waterfalls are the least visited there. Personally, I really like 50-foot falls. That was one of my favorite ones. So anyway, it's gonna change a lot, the trail to both of these, because they're down in the canyon, and when it floods, it changes everything down there. So it changes the hikes and the trails to them. Last time I was down at 50-foot falls, I came up and the trail looked like it went into the creek. I didn't want to get my feet wet, so I continued on what looked like a trail on the side of the creek, and that was a bad decision. Cross through the stream, and you'll go through, do a little bit of bushwhacking because it's not a well-maintained trail. It's not signed. There's nothing that really tells you where it is. Eventually, if you're persistent, you'll find 50-foot falls. Definitely worth checking out. Now, right around the same area, just shortly downstream from 50-foot is Little Navajo. You can see that one from the trail between the village and the campground, so it's a lot more apparent. The trail to get there, though, first couple of times I went, it was closed because of flash flooding and washed it away. Last time I went, it was very steep and loose in some sections. Nothing to be worried about, but it's just a little bit more adventurous to get to. In my opinion, they're both worth it. So put coordinates for both of them in the description. Go check those out. Now, Havasu Falls, it's impossible to miss. It is kind of the big wow moment, that first thing that you really see that tells you that you're in the land of these blue-gray waters and waterfalls. Pretty self-explanatory. Now, a couple of things I do want to point out about Havasu Falls, outside of just being the easiest to access and therefore probably the most popular waterfall down there. It still is not super crowded, so it's a great option to hang out when you want to relax and have some downtime. It's also a great spot for night photography. So if you want to go down there and get a good photo of Milky Way or something over the waterfalls, this is the waterfall to do it in. Another thing I noticed the last time I was down there is if you're looking at the waterfall, on your right, tight up against the cliff face that has the ramp that you came down to come in, there's a path that you can go around and through this tunnel and come out the other side and see Havasu Falls. I just thought it was really neat, and I haven't seen anybody with video or anything, and like I said, I've been down there several times and checked out that fall for hours and never noticed it before. But now you know where it is. Further downstream from Havasu Falls, at the end of the campgrounds, there is a 200-foot cliff, which is where Mooney Falls is. Mooney Falls is my favorite waterfall down there just because it's the most impressive, and the hike to the bottom of it is the most adventurous portion of the trail. It starts off innocently enough, but very soon the trail has some exposure, and I've seen people firsthand get a little turned around. Personally, I've gone the wrong way for a little bit. So when you're going down Mooney at the beginning, go slow, make sure that you're not cliffing yourself out and getting off the trail. And if you take your time and just hang out and look and pay attention, you won't have any problems with wayfinding. When you come down to one point where the first cave is that you have to go through, that's where I've seen people get confused because it doesn't look like there's anywhere you can go. But there's this really cool cave that you get to go through. Then there's this section with a great reveal of Mooney, and then another section of cave. Then you're at the top of the chains. Now, the chains are as sketchy as everybody says they are. They are not really super well maintained. There's ladders in some sections. I've been down there when the ladders were not tied off. I've grabbed onto pieces of the chain that were loose. You really want to test things as you grab them and climb down. Don't just blindly trust it, because this is not like something like OSHA is down there inspecting these things. Still, I didn't think it was that dangerous. I really like that kind of stuff. I actually really enjoyed the climb. Be smart about it. Try to maintain the 3 points of contact. Gloves really help because the chains are all wet with spray from the waterfall. And along the same lines, we got down there and we're behind someone. We were kind of stuck in that mist, and it was later in the year and it was cold. I also had my nice camera with me, which I knew that this was gonna happen, so I'd taken it off, put it in my backpack, put it in a dry bag to keep it dry. But a rain jacket or something, it would be nice at that section, depending on the time of year if it's cold. But just know that you could get on that portion and get stuck there for a little while you're waiting for people to come up or go down and get everything soaked. So just another obstacle to deal with. Anyway, once you get to the bottom, check out Mooney Falls. It's amazing. There's a rope swing that is generally hanging from the tree just downstream from Mooney Falls. So there's that place you can check out. Once you're done at Mooney, it's time to head on downstream to the last waterfall, Beaver Falls. So to get to Beaver Falls, the trail picks up pretty much at the base of the ladders when you climb down to Mooney. You don't cross the stream. Stay on the same side. At the beginning, it's kind of worn and there's not a clear trail, but at 50 yards or so, you get down there, you'll see the trail alongside the stream. It does branch off in several locations at the beginning. People have wandered down to the creek. Keep an eye out for other people. Have it marked on your GPS. It's really not that hard to find. I mean, it's canyon walking. It's really tough to accidentally walk out of the canyon. I think it's about 3 miles one way, negligible elevation change. There are a couple of stream crossings, but nothing that really gets up maybe to your waist. There are a couple of sections where you have ladders, you have steps you've got to deal with, but if you made it down Mooney, you're not gonna blink at these. It's not a big deal. And it's just a beautiful hike. There are sections where there's vines that it looks like Jurassic Park is what everybody says. And also seen a lot of bighorn sheep down there the last few times that I went. After about 2 or 3 miles from the base of Mooney Falls, you will see a sign for Beaver Falls. You'll see the falls down on your left, looking down canyon. More ladders to get down to the base. It's worth getting into the water and swimming down here for sure. There is a portion of the waterfall that you can get up underneath. There's a little cave there that's really cool to go into. And then if you're looking up canyon, at the waterfall on your right, I've seen some steps and hand lines that people go up. And they don't allow cliff diving, but this is more like 5 feet, 10 feet up above the water. I think people jump in from there. Personally, have not done that, but it's worth keeping an eye out for if you want to spend the day, hang out, and be a little more adventurous. So the last hike I want to talk about is the Confluence. And the Confluence is where Havasu Creek meets the Colorado River at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. It is an amazing hike. It's beautiful, but it is a serious hike. It's about 8 to 9 miles each way from the base of Mooney down to the Confluence. My GPS said it was about 2,000 feet of elevation loss, and it's an adventure all to itself. I have a video that explains that hike in detail that I'll put a link in the description. You can check that out if you want to do it. I feel like the best way to do it is to go day 1, hike in, hang out, check out the falls. Day 2 or day 3, do the Confluence. Probably day 2, so you've got time to relax and rest up before you have to hike out. But that hike, beautiful, get to see the bottom of the Grand Canyon. It actually, at the base, just after the base of Mooney Falls, it changes from Havasupai Reservation into the Grand Canyon National Park. No additional permits needed to do the hike. If you have the time and you have the wayfinding skills and the experience hiking, go for it. But it is a step above in wilderness experience from the rest of Havasupai. So that's it for the permits, the hike, the campgrounds. Get into some other things. As far as food goes, cafe, the store, those are in town. If you're at the campground, they're about 2 miles each way, so a 4-mile walk to go get food from there. It's not really practical. There is a Navajo taco stand that used to be down by the campground. Last couple of times I was there, it was at the top of Havasu Falls. Their Navajo tacos are phenomenal, especially when you're out in a backpacking wilderness experience. You're not expecting that kind of hot meal. It's great, if they're open. Every single time I'm here, the fry bread stand is closed. Personally, I just bring regular backpacking food, dehydrated meals. I have my stove, propane, that I can heat those up, rehydrate them. I like to bring the supplies to be self-sufficient just in case, but it's really up to you and what works best for you. I'm gonna go on a little rant here because this really bothers me. It says all over on the signs down there on the website, pack it in, pack it out, leave no trace. Just because there are people living down there, they're not your maids, they're not the trash men. Everything you bring in, bring it out. That includes like throwing it away in the village. There are no roads going into Supai Village. You can walk in, take a horse in, you take a helicopter in. That's the only way you can get there. So the trash that has to come out, you figure 400 people every day dropping off trash in the village. The expense and the trouble to clean that up is enormous. So pack everything out. It is just out of hand down there. And I've heard people with these defenses that it's like, well, look at the village. They're not super clean, and that's their place. They can do what they want. That's not an excuse. The other thing I saw is there are a lot of supplies. We'll say supplies that people, they say they're leaving them behind for others to use. Ton of propane, gloves at the top of Mooney Falls. And people argue, they're like, well, I use those gloves. No, they clearly state it in the rules that you're not supposed to leave anything there. If you don't want to respect the people who live there and abide by their rules and be thankful that they let you go, then I would put it this way. Don't go into the wilderness expecting things to be there for you. You're gonna get yourself in trouble. Say you go down there and you don't bring any propane and you bring nothing but dehydrated meals because you heard there's a bunch of propane canisters on a picnic table. What happens if you get down there the day that they decided to clean them all up? Wilderness experience is about self-sufficiency. It's not an excuse that I'm helping others out with this. They clearly say it, it's their land. Pack it in, pack it out. Okay, I'm done. Rant over. Now, as far as horses and mules, I haven't used them. You can spend, I think it's $400 in 2024 round trip, $200 each way that you can book a mule to bring your packs in. You have to rent one mule completely. It will fit up to 4 packs. They give very specific rules on the size and the weight to keep it to where it's manageable for the mules and the horses to carry. It's kind of restricting and you're kind of at the mercy of their schedule. Like they have a drop off at the top of the trailhead. If you want to drop your pack and hike in, you're just going to have to trust that it's going to be fine and nobody's going to mess with it. And then you're going to have to figure out where they're dropping it off. It used to be down by the campsite, but because flash floods had washed out the bridge, they could not get the horses and the mules down to that spot. So they stopped upstream of where that bridge was. So if you're gonna get that service to get in or get out, just make sure that you read up on the latest conditions so you know exactly what's going on with that. They are very clear that you need to drop off at a certain time, and if you miss that time, you've missed your opportunity, so read up on everything. Say you go down there and you're just beat up, and you're like, I don't think I can carry this out, I need help. I wanna reserve a mule to carry my pack out. I didn't see where it said that you could do that, but I have seen online where people say that they have done that. If you are in that situation where you get down there and you realize you bit off more than you could chew and you want some help getting your pack out, stop by the Welcome Center and ask them because they're gonna know. I will also add that I've never seen anyone except tribe members riding horses. I don't think you can reserve a horse or a mule to actually ride down or ride out.
Hey man, wanna give me a ride out of here?
They also have a helicopter service. I've never taken the helicopter in, but you can reserve it. If you Google Havasupai helicopter, it will give you information, a phone number, and I believe a website for Air West. That is the airline that runs the helicopters. I would recommend if you want to reserve a helicopter going in, look online, call that number and ask them how you can set that up. But I have taken a helicopter out. And it is tricky. They're only flying on certain days, and the days have changed when I was down there. Again, this is something that you want to search the latest and greatest. Right now, it's, I believe, Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday, starting at 9 a.m. That could be different. It was different for me in the past. What has remained constant is the helicopters are a first come, first serve basis if you want to get out. So you go down there, you can't reserve, you can't put your name on a list. What I've always done is you go wait at the helipad. I have gone down there and people have told me to wait somewhere else. That devolved into chaos. Every time, well, all 2 times that I've gotten the helicopter, I waited right by, there was a little podium that is by the helipad straight across from the clinic. It's just a concrete square in the middle of a field. When you walk into the village, you can't really miss it. Eventually, someone will come out. The last time I was there, they came out and it was chaos. The helicopter comes in, the guy starts yelling, cash, 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 who's up, who's up? We were first in line. We basically just threw money at him and just walked towards the helicopter. We'd been talking to the people behind us and trying to work out a plan, because some of them had cash, some of them had credit cards, and figure out some logistics of how we could help each other out. But when it came time to get on the helicopter, that guy yelled. They said, drop your bags. We dropped our bags. Didn't know when they were coming up to the top with us. They didn't get on the same helicopter as us. But we were lucky to get on the first helicopter. It was $100 per person, including your backpack. 15 minutes. We flew and we were out of the Grand Canyon, back at the parking lot. I've gotten some grief from people from the videos of those trips that say, why are you taking a helicopter? The hike out's not so bad. And it's fine. I've done the hike out before. But for $100 to ride a helicopter out of the Grand Canyon, that's just awesome. That's a great deal, and it's a lot of fun. But you can't count on it. The time before last, where we ended up waiting in the wrong spot, people got out of line, they started pushing. I just didn't like that scene. So even though I'd waited for like 4 hours for the helicopter, I just picked up my backpack and hiked out. If you can catch it, great. But if you miss it, you're gonna be walking, and you better be able to. A couple other things about it is tribal members go first. You can get there at 4 a.m., get in line, sit there for 5 hours till 9 o'clock. About 5 minutes before they show up, 20 members of the tribe walk up. Those 20 people are gonna fly in and out before you get on the helicopter, and you just wait. Eventually the helicopter just stops running. And if you're in line and there were too many things coming into or going out of the village for, supplies, that's the way they get all their supplies for the entire village. Too many other hikers in front of you, you're out of luck, you're walking. The helicopter's great. I do highly recommend it. Bring cash and be able to walk out if you have to. Getting into wayfinding, it's really straightforward. Personally, I use Gaia on my iPhone. That's an app. Even though it's on your iPhone, it works off a satellite. Get some type of satellite GPS, get familiar with it, know how to use it if you're worried about wayfinding. As far as gear goes, I'm not going to go through the whole loadout. I'll go through some things that are specific for Havasupai that are helpful. There are plenty of other resources that will tell you what kind of gear you want for a backpacking trip. The one thing I do want to say is don't buy a bunch of new gear and the first thing you do is have a Supai with it. If you're not familiar with backpacking, go out, find something local that's short and easy to do. Practice, spend the night with your gear, test it out, tweak it, and have your kit dialed in. You want to make sure you bring cash. They do take cards even down at the taco stand. Again, the helicopter, I needed cash for that. It's nice to have. You never know when the Wi-Fi or the internet may be down there. This is the Grand Canyon, so I think it's like 10 degrees. For every 1,000 feet you go down, it gets 10 degrees hotter, something like that. But it can be cold up top, and it can be hot down at camp. Bring lots of layers, look up the weather up at the rim, and look up the weather down in the village for when you're there. But just come prepared for pretty wide temperature swings. And then the last thing that I think most people get caught up on are water shoes. Now, I've gone down there with regular hiking shoes and water shoes before, but what I've kind of come to do over the years is I will have breathable trail runners. I have Ultra Olympus that I really like, non-waterproof hiking shoes or hiking boots. Don't have a ton of padding and have like lighter fabric that can dry out. I'll put on wool socks, my hiking shoes, and I will just walk right through the water. I'll bring a pair of flip-flops, or you can bring Crocs or something, light for a camp shoe. When you get back to camp at the end of going down and swimming and hanging out in the waterfalls all day, take off your socks, take off your shoes, set them out to dry, and then put on your camp shoes. Generally, if you have the breathable type of shoe, it will dry overnight. If you really want to take the water shoes, you do get in the water plenty. A buddy of mine takes Crocs. He swears on them, and you can use those as water shoes. So as far as weather goes, it snows up there in the wintertime. The water is spring fed. It obviously starts picking up the ambient temperature the further downstream you are from the spring, and it doesn't freeze over, but it can be very cold in the winter. You can't have a campfire, so you're gonna have to have gear that will keep you warm without an external heat source. In the summertime, that is more of the concern, that it is just hot. Like, it can get to be 110, 120 degrees down there. even at camp, you'll just be sitting there if you're in August or July, and it's just going to be brutally hot. The hike out and the hike in even, but more so the hike out where you've got all the elevation gain, can be fatal. So you need to plan accordingly if you're going in the summer months. Outside of that, you have monsoon season, which later summer, earlier fall out here in Arizona. The monsoons roll in typically in the afternoon, but can at any time, and can produce flash flooding, like I said before. Ideally, you would go like April, May, or late September to early November. But again, permits are hard to get, so you're gonna probably go when you can get the permit, not necessarily your ideal time of year. As far as animals go, I've seen snakes, I've seen tarantulas, I've seen bighorn sheep, I've seen squirrels, got raccoons down there. That's about it. Even the bighorn sheep just walked right up the trail next to me. They're wild animals. Don't feed them, don't pester them, stay out of their way. Be smart about it, but don't be afraid. I mean, there's not a big danger from animals down there. Main danger is a squirrel eating through your tent. I do want to take some time and go through some typical questions that I've seen online a lot. Here we go. Number one, can I bring my kids? I don't know your kids. I'm going to probably be a little snarky on some of these, but you know, really people ask this all the time, and the answer is, can your kids do this hike? You know your kids better than anybody. This is a major hike. It is not a walk in the park. It's not easy. I've seen people down there with everything from toddlers to teenagers. Some of them were having a miserable time and some of them were having a blast. It all depends on your kids. Can they walk 10 miles with a pack and gain 2,600 feet or 2,500 feet of elevation and enjoy it? If the answer is yes, bring your kids. Next question, can I bring a suitcase? Yes, you can. I have seen suitcases down there, people rolling the rolling suitcases through the dirt down at the campground. I do not advise it. I'm assuming that they brought those in on the mules and didn't carry them themselves or with the helicopter. Keep in mind where you are in relation to where your bag is going to be picked up and dropped off. If you're at the lodge, it may make a lot more sense. If you're down at the campground and you bring a roll suitcase that you think you're gonna drag down there, if the bridge is washed out, now you've got to drag that thing up to 1.5 miles with 400 or 500 feet of elevation loss and gain. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's possible. Someone like me will be making fun of you if you're rolling a suitcase through the campground though. Another question I see a lot is, how do you train? The best way to train is to get your backpacking gear, put it in your backpack, and go backpack something that is similar in length and elevation change. Barring that, put on your backpack, go out and hike something that's shorter. Go to the gym, climb stairs, walk around your block, do something. I do not recommend drinking beer all the way up till the night before and laying on the couch for 5 years and never exercising. I've seen people do it. They did not look happy. The best training for backpacking and hiking is to backpack and hike. Can I make it down the climb to Mooney? All depends on your personal abilities. No point in going down there and making yourself terrified, but I do recommend you try it to see if you can make it because it's worth it. I would feel ripped off if I went down there and didn't see all the way down to at least Beaver Falls. But if you can't do it, you can't do it. Don't get too far out of your comfort zone. Be safe, but give it a try. What pack, what shoes, what tent, what et cetera gear should I get? There's not a real good answer on that because it all depends on you personally. The one that really gets me is shoes. People say, what shoes should I get? Everybody's foot is different. I can't stand Merrells. They're too narrow for my foot. I love Ultra. I like Keens because they have a wide toe box, but they give me blisters. I do recommend if you have an REI that's nearby or some similar type of outfitters, go into the store, touch the stuff, grab it, wear it, try it out, see what seems to work right for you, and go from there. When I started backpacking, I went out, I bought a bunch of really cheap gear. I had a bunch of really old gear, cobbled together this Frankenstein backpacking kit, went out and backpacked. Immediately was like, I need to replace backpack, I need to replace the shoes, and then I just kind of tested and adjusted from there. Some of the cheap and old gear that I had, I kept for years. Some of it I replaced immediately. But if you run out, take some stranger's advice on the internet, like myself, I say you need to get Ultra Olympus. If you've got narrow feet, you go try them on, you're gonna say, I hate these things. So it's gonna depend on you. There are gear review channels out there that you can watch as well. Just don't wait till the last minute. Look into it and make sure that you've got everything you need. How are the bugs? Personally, I haven't had any issues with them down there. Don't hold me to that. Now, I don't know. There could be some weird plague of bugs that come down while you're there. Myself, I haven't had any issues. Oh, I love this one. Can I stand up paddleboard in the Narrows at the Confluence? Probably seen that picture of that person paddleboarding down the Narrows. I will tell you right now, the Narrows at the Confluence are about 50 yards long, and then they dump directly into the Colorado River. It is not a paddleboarding destination. It's a cool picture. If you really want it, you're gonna have to carry that stand-up paddleboard or that kayak or whatever you want for probably 40 miles. You really gotta want that picture. I do not recommend it. I hear the tribe members hate tourists. I'm sure some of them do. I mean, this is not Disneyland where everybody's an employee of the Havasupai backpacking experience. People live here and they probably don't want anything to do with 400 strangers a day walking through their home. I've never had any of them be mean to me. I've never had any of them be rude to me. But there have been some times where they made it clear that it's like they just want to go about their business. They don't want to be bothered by all of us. My advice there is don't worry about it. Be respectful. It's their land. And when you're going through the village especially, that's their home. Be respectful and you'll be fine. Do I have to share campsites? There are lots of areas that are wider and more open and can accommodate multiple tents. It gets crowded. You're going to have neighbors. But I have been able to find sort of secluded campsites where we had privacy and you could see tents off to the side, but nobody was right next to you. So it all depends on what you want to do. If you want to get to know your neighbors and hang out, make a bunch of friends, spots for that. If you want to be left alone, there's spots for that too. Should I bring neoprene? I wouldn't. You don't want to swim in neoprene. I mean, it's not snorkeling, so it's not worth the extra weight. Don't bring it. Maybe neoprene socks if it's really cold for the stream crossings, but that would be it. Should I bring my camera? This sounds like a joke, but it's not. I made the Confluence video because I'd just gotten a brand new camera and I wanted to take it down there and I couldn't find anything that said, do I have to swim to get there? So I was worried about ruining my camera. And if you're gonna do a bunch of swimming, you're gonna go all the way down to the Confluence, stuff like that, you need to seriously think about, okay, what am I gonna do to protect my camera? I bought a waterproof camera bag. But you also have to think, if you wanna go hang out and swim at the base of the falls all day, where's your camera gonna be? Because you're around 399 strangers, and there's no way I would have left my Canon sitting in my tent or unattended. I had that thing on my person at all times. I would think of it more from that standpoint than anything of what am I gonna do to keep it secure? That does remind me of one thing. A lot of people ask, should I bring a day pack? What kind of day pack should I bring? And it's very helpful for reasons just like that. Or if you want a day hike to Beaver Falls and spend most of the day, you want to bring your snacks and water, you got something to carry the stuff there. Most of my backpacks actually have a day pack that's inside them, either the brain on the backpack or they're down at the water reservoir. So if your backpack has one of those, that's great. If not, you should probably bring something light that you can bring things around in. Last question, I'm flying in and can't bring propane. Is there somewhere I can buy it? Seligman probably has it. I saw it at the Grand Canyon Cavern Inn, little shop off to the side of reception. I don't remember seeing it in the store down in the village, and worst case, there were a ton sitting there spare that people didn't want to carry out. But again, you can't count on that. I think between the inn, Seligman, and the shop down in the village, you'll be fine. That's it. That is the guide to Havasupai. If you have any other questions, something that I missed, leave a comment down below and I'll try and answer it. And hopefully you found this video helpful. That's all I got.